1 minute for 2 minutes for introduction, 1 minute for each question, 1 minute to close. Yeah.
All right.
Did Chris come in?
You're starting, right?
Yep. I need a step stool.
I get more butterflies. I'm one of those, all those that say, hey, all the people who vote every time.
Change your other rhythm and talk in it and say, I want to see puppies. I want to see seals.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
tell it that.
Do you need me up here, or are you going to introduce me and then
Yeah,
we walk
you
out?
can stand right here. I mean, that's fine. And I'll have Chris just stand over here. Yeah. Maybe for the later one.
Yeah.
Chris, if you want to come over here, I'll stand next to the mayor and we'll. You guys ready? Mindy, would you close the doors? Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Sarah Sewell, and I'm the president of the Noble Public Schools Foundation and a parent of children that attend Noble Public Schools. Thank you to everyone joining us tonight and those watching online. And on behalf of the Noble Public Schools Foundation Board of Directors, we are honored to join our neighbors from the Noble Public Library in hosting this important event for our community. If you would please stand. Thank you for being here. Tonight's primary election forum is our 10th election forum to host, and we continue. Thank you as you sit down. Sorry. I was just wanting everybody to acknowledge you. And we continue to remain committed to ensuring every voter in our community has as much information as possible to make informed voting decisions in our local and state elections. The mission of the Noble Public Schools Foundation is to empower educators and enrich student learning by partnering with our community to provide vital educational resources while maintaining the highest standards of financial stewardship and transparency. Our vision is that every student will have ample access to the tools and opportunities they need while in pursuit of their dreams. This past school year, we gave over $37,000 in classroom grants and $23,000 in scholarships to our graduating seniors. Before we kick off tonight's forum, I would like to share some important information on an upcoming vote. On August 25th, our community will vote on a school board bond proposal that has been 5 years in the making and shaped by more than 680 responses from parents, staff, and neighbors like you. Our community is growing at a rapid pace, and our current campuses are bursting at the seams. If passed, this bond will include a new 5th and 6th grade classroom, additions to a new fine arts center, and a district-wide safety upgrades. 87% of the bond is dedicated to academics, and every Noble Public School campus will benefit. The best part is that the bond is designed to keep your property tax rate at or below its current level with no tax increase to you. Please make plans to vote again on August 25th. And now I'm honored to introduce tonight's moderator, the mayor of Noble himself, and he is a District 20 constituent, Phil Freeman.
It's good to be here and looking forward to our discussion tonight. At this time, we're going to start right out with some introductions. Once again, I am the mayor of Noble, have been for 5 years, going on 6, and love our community, and glad to see several of you out here today informing yourself about our candidates, and we want good representation. I think we all agree with that. So at this time, I'm going to ask our candidates to introduce themselves. They'll have 2 minutes to do so, and I'm going to begin with Chris May, who is our Democrat challenger from right here in Noble. He will not be answering questions tonight because he is not in the primary. But when we have the forum in the fall, whoever wins the Republican primary, we will have a forum with Chris and that challenger. So at this time, Chris, if you come and introduce yourself, you have 2 minutes.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you guys for coming out here. While I won't be answering questions today, I will be set up outside the auditorium. So if you want to come ask questions, feel free to come talk to me. I only have 2 minutes to tell you who I am, why I'm here, and what I'm going to do for you. Okay? So these are going to be some bullet points. If you guys want me to expand, please come talk to me. My name's Chris May. I am a proud father, husband, and Oklahoman. My wife's sitting right here. She's the brains behind the operation. I have a son in 5th grade, a son that is a senior in high school, and my daughter graduated high school here. And to be really, really blunt with you, the reason I'm here is because we, as working class Oklahomans, are not being represented. We're just not. You can tell that by looking around you, looking at the prices you pay, looking at your insurance skyrocketing, looking at your education system trending downwards. If we were being represented, those things would not happen. So I'm here to change that. I'm here to actually represent us. I'm here to work and not just talk. And I've actually shown that already. I have made meetings with all of our superintendents. I've talked to 3 of them so far. And the surprising thing I hear is they have no working relationship with our legislation. How are we passing bills and asking our school systems to implement these things without first talking to them, without working with them and saying, we're going to pass this bill. How does this actually get implemented into your school? What does it look like? Okay, apparently that's 2 minutes. I usually don't have a time limit. I talk a lot. I'll get off stage. I just want to bullet point a couple more things. Affordability, insurance. I'm currently working on that with current reps and insurance adjusters to see how we can get that down. But please come talk to me afterwards. I got to get off stage now and let these 2 fight it out so I can see who I'm going against in November. Hopefully you guys come back out in October.
Thank you, Chris. Let's give him a hand. Thank you very much. All right, next will be Representative Jonathan Wilk, Republican incumbent from Goldsby. 2 minutes.
Thank you, Noble Public Schools Foundation. Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate you guys inviting us out, give us opportunity to address some of your constituents' concerns and hopefully alleviate some of their concerns tonight. My name's Jonathan Wilk. I'm your current state representative. I got elected in 2024. My wife is a school teacher at Washington Public Schools. My family has been involved in the school system there for 5 generations now. I've got family in Noble, Newcastle, Blanchard, and Washington. So I've got family in all the districts. So the entire district is very important to me. I've got a rural background, being from Goldsby, Washington area. Run a cow-calf operation with my wife and kids. My 3 boys are grown now. My youngest one is a junior, or will be becoming a junior at OSU. They're in Stillwater. My middle son works for Halliburton, and then my oldest son is a lineman at OEC. I've got a daughter-in-law that's a nurse at OU Children's, working in the NICU in labor and delivery for the babies. Since we've been in office, we've done a lot of good things. I want to continue that work. You know, we're working on some insurance reforms. We passed the the file and use instead of use and file for insurance rates. So it'll be more mirrored off kind of like what OG&E does through the Corporation Commission. When they want a rate hike, they have to file for it before they can use it. Right now, currently, insurance companies can use it and then file for it 90 days after they've already implemented the increase. So that's one of the things we've done. We've made historic investments in education. this last session, both in the private school education and in the public school education. We just gave teachers a $2,000 pay raise, so that was a big deal for you guys. We're going to continue to work towards education. We passed a Strong Readers Act. I'm out of time now. Thank you.
All right, and now we have Mike Fullerton. He's the Republican challenger from Newcastle.
My name is Mike Fullerton. I'm currently sitting on Newcastle City Council. I have for the last 14 years. 2 years ago, I sat here, and one of the things we talked about was education for the most part. I brought these two binders up here tonight. I want you to think about it as we talk. The white one is the mandates that our schools have to follow. The black one is just the sports one. So that's a lot of mandates that most of them, I'm going to guess, is unfunded for the most part. So when we talk about funding our schools, we need to do it right. If we're going to do it, let's do it right. Now, I'm in the roadway industry. I don't know much about education. What I do know is my granddaughter's in there. I have two sons. One of them is a diesel mechanic. The other one is a drone pilot that flies aerial photography. Now, the thing that we need to do, though, is get our education straight. First thing. The next thing is we got to get our transportation right as well. Every road has bumps in it. I'm always the philosopher of taking the bump out of the road. I have fought to keep the bumps out of the road in my own town. I have fought to keep our state highways that way as well. It took me 10 years to get 10 years of an 8-year program to get Highway 76 on the books and now started construction. So one of the things, in closing, all I ask is check us out. That's all I ask.
Thank you. So House District 20 serves the communities of Noble, which is in town west of 48th Street. Also Slaughterville, Lexington, Newcastle, Blanchard, Cole, Goldsby, and Washington. Both Wilk and Fullerton will be in the June 16th primary. And Mr. May, who you heard from first, will face the winner of this primary election in the November general election, just so you kind of know when all of those are happening. Here's how the question portion of tonight's event will flow. Each of you will have 2 minutes, as we already have done, to introduce yourself. And then following the introductions, here we go. Questions were submitted by the community members during an open submission period. So these questions came from our community members. I will ask you a community question to each of you, and you will have 1 minute to respond accordingly. So you have to go quick. We will alternate who goes first on each question, and you will be notified by our timekeeper right here when you're 30 seconds and then when your time is up. Following the question portion, when we get done at the end, you will have 1 minute for the closing remarks to share with anything else that you haven't felt like you've been able to share throughout. We want to remind you this is a forum, not a debate. And so in order to touch all the topics as possible tonight, rebuttal time will not be included. We're not going to go back and forth. We ask that you answer the questions based on your own ideas and merits, and that we remain professional to one another during our time. It is imperative that we keep this forum focused on the issues and refrain from any personal attacks. I know both of these gentlemen, I don't expect any of that. Any negative comments directed toward your opponent would be met with a warning, and if unable to heed the first warning, we would ask you to leave the stage. I know that's not going to happen. So let's get started, all right? Question number 1, which Fullerton, you will answer first. It says, this year, Oklahoma lawmakers increased the cap on the private school tax credit program, committing $275 million in taxpayer dollars towards private education subsidies, even as many public school districts are facing shortages, rapid operational costs, and other difficulties. Public schools are legally required to serve all students, including students with severe disabilities, behavioral challenges, and IEPs, individual educational plans. Public schools must also comply with audits, accreditation standards, open records laws, and other accountability measures that private schools may not, even though receiving public tuition dollars, have to meet. So the question is, do you believe it is fiscally responsible to expand taxpayer-funded private school subsidies without the same level of accountability and required equal access as public schools? Why or why not? And what changes, if any, would you propose? I know it's a big question.
It
Go
is
ahead.
a big question. Takes a lot longer than a minute, but
Mm-hmm.
well, I oppose the $275 million. True, 93% of our school district is made up of public ed, 7% is not. I have two boys. One of them went to public ed, the other one was homeschooled. I paid for not only his speech therapy, his education, his vocational training, and everything else in between. I also paid for through my taxes my one son's public ed. So with that said, I will try everything I can, like I said, to thin this. That's what has to be done. Those mandates have to go away. If the mandates are here for the public, then they need to be for the private. And that's the truth. So one or the other, that they go away or they stay, but they both have to be equal.
Wilk?
Thank you. Yeah, so I support the parental choice tax credit, and I'm going to tell you why. We increased it by $25 million this last year. Currently, the cost of putting a child through public education is almost $15,000 a year. The maximum they can receive is $7,500. So from a state's benefit, just a fiscal policy standpoint, it is cheaper to do that. From a local school point, I did the numbers before I came here on this topic because I figured it would come up. The median home price in Noble is $225,000 roughly. That means a school is collecting roughly $1,980 for every home. And if the 7% number that Mr. Fullerton stated is accurate, that means Noble Schools is benefiting by over $400,000 in property taxes alone from kids going to private schools without having to educate those kids. Those numbers at 7% would be about 200 plus kids that are not attending Noble Schools, but they are allowed to receive that money for infrastructure.
Thank you very much. Question number 2. This session, the Oklahoma legislature passed a new literacy reform law requiring that third graders who do not meet required reading benchmarks on state assessments be retained to repeat third grade. Had this policy been in place last year, Oklahoma Council of Public Affairs has reported that nearly 75% of third graders would have been forced to repeat third grade. Although most Oklahomans would agree that something significant needs to be done to address our literacy crisis, many educators and parents are concerned this new law will unrealistically increase pressure on already understaffed schools by maybe requiring additional teachers, reading specialists, intervention staff, and classroom space, particularly in districts already struggling with poverty, chronic absenteeism, and limited early childhood access. So the question is, and Wilk, you'll go first, if the state is going to require retention for struggling readers, what specific investment or policy solutions do you support to ensure schools actually have the personnel, resources, and support systems necessary to help those students actually succeed?
Thank you for the question. Yeah, so I support the additional funding for the Strong Readers Act. I think it's important. It's one of the core functions of a public school. We are mandating too many other things on the public schools. The reality is a lot of parents these days aren't being parents and raising their kids. And so they're expecting the public schools to raise their children for them. And we have got to eliminate that out of our public school system. It's not the school's job to raise people's kids and get public schools back to their core function, which is educating children in reading, writing, and arithmetic. So I think if we can go through the process and eliminate some of these burdensome regulations, that should free up the space, the time, and the financial resources to focus back on those core functions of a public school.
Fullerton?
Well, let's talk about the third grade thing. Wasn't this what we went through about 10 years ago or so? And it failed. And now we're back at it again, trying round 2 with it, with a little bit of change. To me, this is one thing that we need to make sure that we're doing something better. I have this philosophy. We get rid of this, and we let our teachers teach. We let them teach right. Yes, Mr. Wilk is right on one thing. The parents need to be parents. That's the first thing first. You know, the schools are there with one teacher and 20 to 25 kids in the class. By the time that each kid asks a question, the hour is gone. So this is something that we need to get straight, is the reading at that level. So please, all we got to do is get our teachers back into the classroom doing right. Let's ask our third grade teachers the best way to get this done. Let's ask our administration the best way to get this done. Thank you.
Thank you. Question number 3. Even with recent investment in teacher pay and public school funding, Oklahoma still trails neighboring states in teacher compensation and per pupil funding. Our lawmakers often point to teachers' raises as evidence of progress, yet Oklahoma schools continue to face major teacher retention challenges tied not only to pay but also workload, classroom behavior, testing pressures, staffing shortages, and lack of support personnel. What do you believe lawmakers may still be getting wrong about why teachers are leaving the profession? And would you support automatically adjusting teacher pay and per pupil funding each year based on inflation so schools are not effectively falling behind over time? Why or why not? And Fullerton, you'll begin.
Okay. 11 years ago, I went into the Capitol to take my Boy Scouts there. That was during the teacher walkout. And the one thing I noticed was we had, what was it? They had a 4% cut in the teachers, in the school funding, 4%. And ever since then, I feel like we have just went downhill after that. Instead of putting a 2% or a 3% increase every year for inflation, that's something we need to look at at our schools and doing. And it's just across the board for our teachers. And something more, when our teachers do good, let's make sure that they're treated better. You know, we have teachers that are, the emergency certification on our teachers is out the roof. And if we don't get them trained right, then we're still in the same boat. And it's sinking. And we have to get our teachers trained. And the 7-day deal that we added, maybe we should put them, sorry.
Wilk.
Can you repeat just the question at the end there?
Yeah. What do you believe lawmakers may still be getting wrong about why teachers are leaving the profession? And would you support automatically adjusting teacher pay and per pupil funding each year based on inflation so schools are not effectively falling behind over time? Why or why not?
Yeah, thank you for the question. First of all, on the funding, tying it to the inflation, I don't support that for any capacity, and that's being funded by taxpayer dollars. And the reason is because years change, fiscal constraints change year after year, especially in a state like Oklahoma that's tied to oil and gas gross production tax. So I'm not going to support anything tied to inflation as an automatic trigger. I think it needs to be looked at year by year to see what we can actually afford and make sure those funds are there. I'm sorry, can you repeat the
Why do you believe lawmakers may still be, what do you think they might be getting wrong why teachers are leaving the profession?
Yeah, so I think the reason most teachers that I talk to are leaving the profession hasn't been pay. It's been kids not acting appropriately in classrooms, and that comes back to homes and parents not being parents. The other thing I think is they don't feel supported either by the state legislature, the State Department of Education, or in some instances, their local school board. I'm out of time.
All right. Next question. While our public school districts continue to face measurable challenges like literacy rates, chronic absenteeism, special education staffing shortages, Oklahoma education debates have increasingly centered around classroom content, library books, curriculum oversight, and parental rights. In your opinion, what point does political activism and divisive rhetoric around public schools begin distracting from the core academic and staffing challenges that are actually impacting student outcomes in Oklahoma classrooms every day? And Wilk, you'll go first.
So I think it's already been a distraction for several years now. I don't think that's any secret to anybody. I think we are making progress to turn the ship the other direction and actually focusing, us going down to 50th in education. I mean, I think that helped, to be honest with you. It helped show everybody that, hey, we're focusing on the wrong thing here. We have got to get back to what we're there for, which is educating these kids. So I think we've hit that low place, if you will, and I think we're on the uphill climb now. I think we're climbing back up as a society. I think that's where we need to go, is supporting them and quit focusing in on these social and culture wars and get back to educating our kids.
Fullerton.
I know that we've had a lot of controversy about our books in the library. Our previous House rep had that issue. She went on and on about it. I think it brought light to the date, brought light on the subject. I think, like Mr. Wilkes says, we need to get away from the political aspect of that, but also making sure that we do concentrate on what our kids are learning. If we don't concentrate on our kids from the 3rd grade up through, the 8th, we end up having issues with them when they get into high school. And it also stems back to the tardiness or being absent. They just don't want to be there. And a lot of times parents may not know that until their kid's already at that critical stage. So I'll let that be as it is.
All right. Next question. This legislative session, Oklahoma leaders supported efforts to reduce property taxes without clearly identifying how local communities would replace that lost revenue. At the same time, we know that many Oklahomans are struggling with rising insurance costs, housing prices, and other cost of living, which makes home ownership increasingly difficult for working families. Currently, Oklahoma property taxes remains one of the primary funding sources for schools, roads, fire departments, law enforcement, libraries, and ambulance service. So the question is, if property tax revenues are slowed or eliminated, what specific local government services do you believe should receive less funding, or what funding source should replace the lost revenue, and what evidence leads you to believe that funding approach will leave communities better off? And Fullerton, you will start.
I'm sorry, would you repeat that? What the services of what should be cut?
Okay, so it says, if property tax revenues are slowed or eliminated, what specific local government services do you believe should either receive less funding, or what funding source should we use to replace the lost revenue of property tax? And what evidence leads you to believe that funding approach will leave communities better off?
I'm not for sure we can alleviate property tax right now. I haven't seen a clear plan from the leadership from our state. As dealing with the city, we run on sales tax. We have nothing dealing with the property tax, nor do we dip into it. Our emergency management place, ambulance service, does have a part of the property tax, and our libraries. Now, as a school, as a city, we fund part of our library by furnishing the building, as well as partly funding for it. As in teachers, as in the property tax, I would prefer to see it drop to about a 2% for anybody instead of increasing each year. Instead of increasing to 3% each year and 5% for a deal, I'd like to see about a 2% and a 3% for public property or for private property.
Wilk.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So currently, the legislature has put out a state question for you guys, and you'll get an opportunity to vote on that. We as a legislature do not get to do that. That is up to you guys as the people per our Constitution. So we set a question in place for you guys to vote on that will allow you the opportunity to make that decision for yourselves as a local community when you go cast your vote and say, yes, we agree with slowing the growth. And what it is currently you get 3% increase every year is a maximum. That doesn't mean it's going to happen every year. That allows it. It's a cap to increase every year on your homestead exempted property and your ag property. It's 5% on all other property. What we're proposing is to let you guys decide on whether or not you want to lower that to a 1.75 and a 4 respectively. That'll be the lowest in the nation as far as a cap. So you're not cutting funding, you're just slowing how fast they can increase it year over year.
Thank you. Next question. The proposed turnpike expansion through Norman, Noble, and Newcastle areas has deeply divided many communities in this region. Supporters argue the project is necessary to address long-term growth, congestion, infrastructure needs, while opponents raise serious concerns about eminent domain, transparency, private property rights, the impact on families to lose their home, farmland. At the same time, many Oklahoma leaders strongly advocate for limited government and protection of private property rights, and yet the OTA maintains broad eminent domain powers for projects deemed to serve a public purpose. So where do you draw the line between public necessity and government overreach in using eminent domain for major infrastructure projects? And Wilk, you'll answer first.
Thank you for the question. So this last session, or really the last two sessions, I've been involved in a lot of these bills. This last session, I was involved with one with Senator Standridge to try to rein in some of that and address that necessity issue. I know Representative Sterling has been working on that as a Vice Chairman of Transportation. I've been involved in all of those bills. I do think that we've got to put some guardrails up. The problem is there's 101 of us, and there's 48 in the Senate, and you have a governor. So how do you get everything put into one bill and get it addressed? It's difficult. I've worked with a lot of my constituents out of Noble on this issue. There is a public safety concern, and they even recognize that in terms of traffic congestion. I think most people are just concerned that this is not the right path, and there has to be some guardrails on OTA and the eminent domain and when they use it and the necessity in it. And then again, if they do use it, what that compensation looks like for those people that are being displaced to no fault of their own.
Fullerton.
Sitting on city council, I have never used eminent domain, first off. Never had to. We've always come to some agreement. Now, with the turnpike going through, there will be, and there has been already some eminent domain used to do it. I have a solution. If the person's been in their property for 30, 40, 50 years, and their taxes are actually lower than what they could be for a new home, let's go back to when they buy their new home and not stuck them with the high tax of that new property, first off. And let's keep their lives a little better. They've been tormented enough of having to move.
Thank you. In 2020, Oklahoma voters approved a Medicaid expansion through State Question 802, placing it in the state constitution. This year, lawmakers proposed measures that could allow future legislative changes to the program if federal funding levels shift. Supporters of Medicaid expansion argue it improves health care access, reduces uncompensated care costs, and helps stabilize hospitals, while critics raise concerns about the long-term fiscal sustainability and future taxpayer obligation if federal matching rates decline. So the question is, if fiscal conditions change, how much authority should lawmakers have to alter Oklahoma's voter-approved Medicaid expansion, and what specific fiscal benchmarks would justify overriding the will of the voters? And Fullerton, you'll go first.
Okay. We voted on this, what was that? I forget how many years ago for that. And I voted no, that we should not do the medical aid and the medical expansion. I knew it was bad. I knew it was going to come back and bite Oklahoma again later on down the road. I want to take one of the bills that we just had this year, Senate Bill 2060, when it got passed. 2 years ago, we voted that down, and now it came back. So saying that the legislatures aren't going to come back and change something is wrong. It has. And when the will of the people have already voted it down once, why are we doing it again? Why are our legislatures jumping the ship and going off keel on that?
Wilk.
Thank you for the question. Yeah, this is a very important topic for a lot of future generations of Oklahomans. So currently, the federal government's matching a 90-10. It is in our state constitution, which requires us, if we make any changes to that, we have to fund it. And if the feds make any changes on their end to get to what they want right now, according to our federal delegation of a 60-40 match, in other words, Oklahoma will have to pick up 40% of that. What that's going to do is if we leave that in Constitution, we'll have to send that to a vote every time they stair-step that change. And so we wanted that in statute to where we could make those adjustments as needed. Because if they go to a 60-40, based on current numbers, things in this state have got to be cut because we have that embedded in our Constitution. and we have no control over that pricing. So we will have enough money to cover Medicaid expansion and public education. That's it, folks. So we have to do something. And so the state question, where was 2 of them? I'm sorry. We can visit afterwards if you want to talk about it.
Thank you. Question 8. Community involvement and accessibility are important expectations for Noble residents. During a time when political division, distrust remain high across all state and nation, many of our residents want elected officials who are visible, approachable, willing to listen, and able to work constructively with people of differing viewpoints. If elected, what specific steps would you take to maintain a consistent presence in Noble and build strong relationships across the entire community, including business owners, educators, local organizations, and constituents of differing political perspectives? And Wilkie, you'll answer first. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Yeah, so I've been engaged with some of the Noble Public Schools board members even. I've talked to them several times. I talked to Mr. Solomon regularly during session when school's in. We have monthly meetings not at the Career Tech, but through Zoom that sometimes he doesn't participate in, sometimes I don't, but nonetheless, we're meeting monthly or have the opportunity to meet monthly through Zoom. I'm also participating in a lot of the Noble Chamber of Commerce events. I'm in communication with the mayor, your police chief, and your fire chief. So I do to actively stay engaged in Noble. I will continue to stay engaged with Noble, Slaughtersville, and Lexington, which are all Cleveland County and the city of Norman. I think it's important, and we have to work extra hard because obviously I live in a separate county, so I have to make a good, faithful, diligent effort to be in Cleveland County, to stay engaged so I can represent you guys. And at the same time, I need you guys to stay engaged with me so I can continue to represent you as well.
Mr. Fullerton.
One of the things I can say that I've been involved in our city is being present at everything and anything that has come about. My presence has been known to be there, always helping and doing whatever I need to in the community, engaging with I have several of my school board members, their phone numbers. I talk to them typically about every other week or so. I speak with our school superintendent when needed be. And one of the things I will always promise to be, even in Cleveland County, I will be there. You will not have to come see me at the Capitol. I will be present, and you will see me.
Thank you. Oklahoma has one of the highest incarceration rates in the United States, while consistently ranking near the bottom nationally in our education outcomes. Recent concerns surround conditions, staffing shortages, violence, and transparency, even at the Central Oklahoma Juvenile Center in Tecumseh, have intensified broader questions about how the state approaches struggling youth. At what point should Oklahoma stop treating poor educational outcomes and high incarceration rates as separate problems? And what should lawmakers be investing in for children before the states end up paying to incarcerate them? And this will be Wilk first. No, I'm sorry, Fullerton.
Education is the key to keeping our kids out of jail or out of incarceration. A child that is active in the community does not get in trouble as much. I've been a Boy Scout leader for 22 years. And one of the things that I know is these kids, when they're active and they're staying out of trouble, they do well. I have had, in our scout troop, I had almost every boy make an Eagle Scout when I was involved with it. And making sure that our kids get the best education and can be able to advance forward into society will keep them out of jail as long as they can find a good job. And that is our responsibility as legislatures to make sure they have that chance for that job.
Thank you. Mr. Wilk.
Thank you for the question. So I probably got a little bit different perspective on this stuff. Being prior law enforcement, what I see is all this stuff goes back to homes. You know, we look to the schools to provide a quality education, and when we use that as a reason to reduce our incarceration rates, I think the reason the scores are low at school is because of our incarceration rates. I think our incarceration rates are the way they are because of our homes, whether it's gambling addictions, whether it's drug problems, whether it's alcohol problems. You know, it's got significantly worse. We're sitting here at number one, depending on how you look at it, what survey you look at, in domestic violence, number one incarceration, number one in divorce rates. Guys, our problems are at our homes, and our schools are not the solution for everything. They're just not. We have to fix the homes. And then I think you'll see the grades improve. I think you'll see incarceration rates go down. You'll see drug use go down. Thank you.
My next question is just simply a yes or no question, and I'll ask Mr. Fullerton first. If you are the winner of the June 16th Republican primary, would you agree to return in the fall to participate in our final election forum with Mr. May?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank
Make
you.
2 weeks.
And Mr. Wilkes, same question.
Yes.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. You will now have 1 minute for closing statements. Before we do that, if you would allow me a little discretion, we've hit you pretty hard. I want to give you a fun question, okay? And the governor, this is from me, the governor just signed into law the Rockets Red Glare Act, which allows or permits Oklahomans to discharge permissible fireworks on private property. And I know there's some restrictions, but this seems a little alarming to me, and wanted to know how you felt the effect of allowing anybody who has private property to shoot fireworks at any time. Now, I know there's some restrictions, but I'm going to make it a little more dramatic. It's just a fun question. Go ahead, Mr. Wilk.
Yeah, so my background is public safety in the fire service, fire marshal's office specifically, and our job, one of our main functions of our job was this, fireworks restrictions and control burns and things of that nature within the city of Norman. And so I was really concerned about this bill. I talked to the author about it, and I talked to the state fire marshal's office about it. And I said, guys, come up with something that is reasonable where we can still allow people to do what they want to do on their private property without a big public safety concern, because right now I'm going to have to be a no on this vote. Yeah. And so they made some concessions. Those two went in a room and worked it out, and the state fire marshal's office came out with something that they were happy with, who also happens to be my former chief at Norman. So with that being said, because he had the support of the state fire marshal's office, I voted yes for that bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Fullerton.
While believe in letting people be their own private citizens and doing what they want to do, we also are restricted by certain restrictions of safety, burn bans, and so on.
Yeah.
As well as if there's not enough water in your community to be able to put out those fires. And that is something that we all have to think about when this comes. I have veterans that talk about this, they go back and their PTSD kicks in. When we had the wells come in, I had veterans that call me at 8 o'clock or 10 o'clock and say, hey, you got to stop this. And I can see this being an issue with some of our veterans. But I also believe that the American citizens has the right to shoot some fireworks occasionally. I mean, it does, but they have to do it safely.
We'll be happy to know it does not restrict the municipality's power to govern inside, and so your city council, my city council, can still override and give restrictions to that. Also, it does not override burn bans and other things, and so there are some measures in there. I was probably being a little dramatic. I just wanted to hear what you thought. You have 1 minute to do closing statements. Mr. Fullerton, you will go first. 1 minute.
Where did I start? Like I said, 2 years ago, I sat right here talking about pretty much the same subject. It's time that we correct those subjects. It's time that we move forward and do the best for our children, our communities. And this is the thing that by not being in the community, you do not know what's going on. And I will always be present in the community. That's just the one thing. If I'm not here, give me a call. If you haven't, I like people to be able to think when they come to the Capitol that they can come and sit down beside me and say, hey, I've got this personal issue, because they may feel uncomfortable about it. And I want people to feel comfortable with sitting and talking with me, because that's what I can do best, is sit and talk with people and listen. That's the main thing, just listening to what the people have to say. I got ran out of time.
Mr. Wilk.
Thank you guys for the opportunity to come speak with you tonight. I look forward to some more conversations after this where we can kind of dive into some of those issues that might be important to you. One of the main things I want you guys to understand is it's hard for me to represent you if we don't communicate. And so if there's an issue pressing on you or weighing on your heart, reach out to me. Tell me what that is. Tell me how you feel. I do want to tell you something. You know, as we talk about education in Oklahoma, I think we're in a unique position in House District 20. The scorecards that I've been provided for our schools as soon as I took office by people anti-pub ed and pro-pub ed, both of them reflected that House District 20 schools are far above a lot of the schools in the state. And I'm not just telling you that because we're sitting here today. I mean, that's the truth. So when these things are being done, understand that there's other school districts that are having issues with this or other parents, and so we have to address those. And unfortunately, we get looped in with those sometimes, but it's not always against what is happening in House District 20. We've got some really good schools here.
Thank you. I want to thank all of our candidates for House District 20, Mr. Fullerton, Mr. Wilkes, Mr. Wilk, Mr. May. Thank you so much for your willingness to serve our communities and our state. It's admirable. We appreciate your leadership from one candidate or one mayor to the political candidates. Let me just say this. As long as you keep at the forefront of everything you do, that it's about serving people. And that even though sometimes the decisions you will make will be more uncomfortable for you, but they'll be better for the people you serve, you'll get to the right decisions in the right spot. So thank you for that. Thank you to all of our citizens for attending tonight. Participation in informed voting is important and to our civic responsibility. Tonight's forum was recorded and will be available online in just a few days. And so please watch the Noble Public School Facebook page for that shareable link to be posted by Wednesday. And make plans now to go vote in the regular polling place location on Tuesday, June 16th from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Or if you need to do early voting from 8 to 6 on Thursday, June 11th, Friday, June 12th, and from 8 to 2 on Saturday on June 13th. You can do that at the following locations for this House District 20: Noble Library, the Sooner Mall, Cleveland County Fairgrounds, or Blanchard's Historical City Hall. House District 20 candidates will be available in the foyer to visit one-on-one and share campaign materials. We'll begin our next forum for House District 27 at approximately 6:30. Thank you so much, and we appreciate you.
Good, good. Maybe. Okay, I'm being told it's 6:30, so we're going to start. Everybody good? Okay, this is for District 27, just to remind everybody. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. My name is Sarah Sewell, and I'm the president of the Noble Public Schools Foundation and a parent of children attending Noble Public Schools. Thank you to everyone joining us tonight and those watching online. On behalf of the Noble Public Schools Foundation Board of Directors, we are honored to join our neighbors from the Noble Public Library in hosting this important event for our community. And if those representatives will please stand from the Noble Public Library. Thank you for being here. Tonight's primary election forum is our 10th election forum to host, and we continue to remain committed to ensuring every voter in our community has as much information as possible to make informed voting decisions in our local and state elections. The mission of the Noble Public Schools Foundation is to empower educators and enrich student learning by partnering with our community to provide vital education resources while maintaining the highest standards of financial stewardship and transparency. Our vision is that every student will have ample access to the tools and opportunities they need while in pursuit of their dreams. This past school year, we gave over $37,000 in classroom grants and $23,000 in scholarships to our graduating seniors. Before we kick off tonight's forum, I would like to share some information on another important upcoming vote. On August 25th, our community will vote on a school bond proposal that has been 5 years in the making and shaped by more than 680 responses from parents, staff, and neighbors like you. Our community is growing at a rapid pace, and our current campuses are bursting at the seams. If passed, this bond will include a new 5th and 6th grade school, classroom additions, a new fine arts center, and a district-wide safety upgrades. 87% of the bond is dedicated to academics, and every Noble Public School campus will benefit. The best part is the bond is designed to keep your property tax rate at or below its current level with no tax increase to you. Please make plans to vote again on August 25th. And now I am honored to introduce tonight's moderator, Noble alumnus, community leader, and House District constituent, Randy Kersey.
Thank you, and welcome everybody for the House District 27 Forum. Again, my name is Randy Kersey. I'm a lifelong resident of Noble, except for maybe a couple of years here and there, but grew up here, graduated here in 1980, and more commonly known as Mr. Susan Kersey, who's the retired librarian from KID. So more people know me as that anymore than anything else. So we are want to introduce our candidates this evening. The incumbent Representative Danny Sterling, Republican from Tecumseh, and challenger Roberta Lewis, the challenger from Macomb. Before we get started on the questions, we have one Democrat challenger, Memory Taylor from Moore, Oklahoma. Memory will not be participating in the question answering because she is not in the primary that's coming up, but hopefully you can come back when we do this again in the fall. So with that, I want to go ahead and give Memory a couple of minutes here to introduce herself. So Memory Taylor.
Hi, like he said, my name is Memory Taylor. I will keep it brief because I think if you'd like to, you can stop and talk to me out at the table. I'll stay as long as anybody wants to talk, but I know my fellow candidates and the incumbent would like to probably get going. So just a few brief things that got me into this is number one, first and foremost, was education. Not just public school education, but also education for children 0 to 3, and then based in child care. And I've seen a lot of what Oklahoma is happening to our education is starting to filter into child care as well. And it's those 0 to 3 years are super important for our kids entering into pre-K and kindergarten and moving on. So the education really is my biggest driver. My other ones are healthcare and just the general affordability. I think we could all talk about insurance and utilities hikes, and those are most of my things. Thank you. I'm just a person, so sorry about all my ums and all of that stuff. But I appreciate your time and look forward to talking to anybody out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Oh. Okay, thank you. So House District 27 serves the communities of Noble, east of 48th Street, Little Axe, Tecumseh, Macomb, Earlsboro, and East Moore. Again, the Republicans are the only candidates that will be in the upcoming June 16th primary ballot. Here's how the question portion of tonight's event will flow. Each of you will have 2 minutes to introduce yourselves to our audience and online viewers. Following the introductions, we will go into the question period of the evening. Questions have been submitted by community members during an open submission period. I will ask a question to the candidates, and each will have 1 minute to respond accordingly. We will alternate who goes first. Each response will be timed, and you will be given a 15-second warning from the front row, 30-second warning from the front row. And following the question portion, you will each have 1 minute for closing remarks at the conclusion of tonight. This is a forum, not a debate, so in order to touch as many topics as possible, rebuttal time is not included this evening. We ask that you answer the questions based on your own ideas and merits, and that you remain professional to one another during our time together. It's imperative that we keep the forum focused on the issues and refrain from any personal attacks, which I don't expect that we'll have that problem this evening. After all, this isn't TV ads. So, okay, so let's get started. First question, Ms. Lewis will answer first. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. Introductions. So, Mr. Sterling, would you go first?
Am I on? Okay. Thank you. First of all, I'm very happy to hear that you have the opportunity to pass a bond issue, because I know, being alumni from here, it was several years ago with the rapid growth Noble had, that a bond issue was very, very important and was passed. Can't remember the number, but hopefully good luck on that. Anyway, it's good to be back here in Noble. As I say, I'm a alumni of Noble High School, graduated here several years ago. I will say I played in the first football field game ever played on that football field, so I am dating myself now. Grew up on a dairy farm just 1 mile east of here. So I'm very familiar with this area and very proud to represent Noble. I've been in office for 8 years now. I'm very happy with the accomplishments that I've made with various bills, various legislation. Some of those that we voted on were very tough, and we have to go back and look at those. If there's changes, we do have the opportunity to do that, and that's what I want to do. I'm staying true to what I campaigned on 8 years ago, which was education, supporting public safety, economic development. I've been recognized for that recently, for doing as much as I can for Oklahoma on economic development. And also, one of the things I really take great pride in is assisting my constituents. You know, legislation, that's great, crafting legislation, different bills that we vote on at the Capitol, but that is a very broad spectrum arena that when we do that. The thing I really enjoy is that one-on-one contact with those constituents. I've had 3 just this week and 1 today that I've been helping with. So I am still on the job regardless if I'm running for this position. So that's the thing I enjoy the most and look forward to continue to doing with your vote to put me back at the Capitol. Thank you.
Ms. Lewis?
Can you hear me? I'm on?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, my name is Roberta Lewis. I'm running for, of course, House District 27. I'm a mother of 3 children, a wife, an Army veteran. And 4 years ago, my family went through a situation of gross government overreach, where my son was removed from me and held for 14 days. And when all of the dust settled and everything was said and done, the people that overreached and came into my home illegally were never held accountable. Instead, they were protected. And so for the last 4.5 years, I've worked with legislators and organizations to help other families who have gone through the same tragedy as I have. We've worked on getting different legislation passed or stopping legislation that would hurt Oklahoma families. And going through this, I had numerous families across the state of Oklahoma reach out to me and ask for my help. And it's been an honor to help them for the last 4.5 years. So I'm running for office to potentially help more people in Oklahoma and protect families against government overreach so that no other family has to go through what mine had to go through. Education, government overreach, the turnpike, parental rights, those are the things that I'm passionate about, and those are the things that I've been working on for the last nearly 5 years. So I look forward to answering any questions that you guys have.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, so our first question, Ms. Lewis, you'll go first. This year, the Oklahoma lawmakers increased the cap on the private school tax credit program, committing $275 million taxpayer dollars toward private education subsidies. Public schools are legally required to serve all students, and they have significantly more regulations and reporting requirements. Do you believe it is fiscally responsible to expand taxpayer-funded private school subsidies without the same level of accountability and required equal access as public schools? Why or why not? And what changes, if any, would you propose?
The short answer is no to that question. The second answer is I believe that all parents should have the right to decide which education is best for their children. But I think that if we're going to give public tax dollars to private schools, then we need to be watching that public tax money just the same as we would with public schools. And so therefore, it's no longer a private school if you're giving public money to that institution. So that's the concerns that I have there. I think that changes that I would make is that we need to be watching where that money is going, who's getting that money. And I think that the legislation was put into place to get the lowest income families that opportunity to put their children in private schools. And I would like to see that, make sure that that's where that money is actually going.
Okay. Representative Sterling?
Thank you for the question. That is one that has been a burn in my side for several years now. First of all, I'm working on legislation currently that might look at the top end of those people that are eligible for this parental tax credit. I think there's several of those people that certainly don't need the voucher, for lack of better words, and that's something I'm definitely looking at from a legislative standpoint. And another thing, you know, they say this is supposed to be for the rural areas, the people that maybe are the lower income folks. Well, if you look at the makeup of District 27, there's not a lot of opportunities to even utilize tax credits. But so the case may be, I think that we definitely need to remember that we have overwhelmingly seen data that says parents want to control where their children go to school. I'm all about that. I'm all about parental choice. But at the same time, we are constitutionally required, as was stated, to fund public education. We've got to do that. We've got to make sure that we
Okay. All right, next question, and Representative Sterling, you'll go first on this one. This last session, the third graders not meeting reading benchmarks now must be retained, according to the legislature. The Oklahoma Council of Public Affairs has reported nearly 75% of third graders would have been forced to repeat third grade had that been in effect last year. So the question is, if the state is going to require retention for struggling readers, what specific investments or policy solutions do you support to ensure schools actually have the personnel, the resources, and the support systems necessary to help those students actually succeed?
Okay, that's a lot. Well, first of all, we did infuse money in the Strong Readers Act, and we're going to hopefully carry that forward. I know we did this in 2016. It was in place at that point in time, but because of actions by the governor, it didn't take place and move forward. But the thing about it, with that taking place, we all hear about the Mississippi Miracle, but you got to have the infrastructure in place for this to be beneficial. We got to have literacy coaches. We got to have a right ratio of literacy coaches to the teachers, and we've got to make sure that they are doing the job, and we got to hold them accountable. There's one thing we got to remember: before students can learn to read to learn, they must learn to read first, and that's what this whole mission is about. Is because the foundation is important at these lower grades, or they will struggle the rest of their time in school. Thank you.
Ms. Lewis?
I think that change is difficult on anybody, but we have to start somewhere. So if we say that we need to remediate a large number of third graders, then let's start with our third graders. But what happens with our fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, and so on graders that are so far behind also? And so we got to start somewhere. We got to stop the bleeding somewhere. But getting back to phonics and the legislation that was passed this last year, I think is a really good start to that. I think that we need to take the other distractions out of the classroom and give our teachers the tools that they need to be successful in the classroom.
Okay. So next question, Ms. Lewis, you will go first. Even with recent investments in teacher pay and public school funding, Oklahoma still trails neighboring states in teacher compensation and per pupil funding. Oklahoma schools continue facing major teacher retention challenges. So what do you believe lawmakers still may be getting wrong about why teachers are leaving the profession? And would you support automatically adjusting teacher pay and per pupil funding each year based on inflation so schools are not effectively falling behind over time? Why or why not?
From talking to, I love our teachers, and I substitute at Macomb often. And so from talking to our educators, what I can tell you is I haven't had one educator tell me that they're leaving the profession because of pay. I think that if you go into the profession of teaching, you do it because you have a heart to do it. And most of our teachers would do it for very little money. That's not fair. These guys are boots on the ground. They're in the classroom every single day, and they need to feel like they're heard. They need to be supported when they go to administration with a problem. What I'm hearing is they don't feel like they're being heard. And so I would support supporting our teachers with what they need in order to get the job done, so that we are putting out top quality students into the workforce.
Okay. Representative Sterling?
Thank you for the questions. Most important thing as far as teacher morale and effective teachers as a whole, we talked about we still having obstacles there, it's who is in front of those students in that classroom. That is going to affect outcomes more than anything else. I don't care what kind of new programs we have, whatever it is, it is who is in front of those students, teaching those students in the classroom. Support by the school, talk about teachers not leaving, what's the reason for leaving the classroom. A lot of it, they got to have support by that site principal, so that's very important as well. We've had funding, we're trying to catch up. We had a backlog of funding that's been we're trying to refill that from the past when we didn't fund teachers as well as we should have, education in general. That's one reason we got the $2,000 pay raise for teachers this year, and $232 million invested in education as a whole, but a lot of work to be done, more than I can even talk about in 1 minute.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and this question would be for you, Representative Sterling, first. While public school districts continue facing measurable challenges like literacy rates, chronic absenteeism, special education staffing shortages, student behavior issues, and teacher retention, Oklahoma's education debate have increasingly centered around classroom content, library books, curriculum oversight, and parental rights. At the same time, educators across the state increasingly report feeling politically targeted and publicly distrusted and fearful of backlash over ordinary classroom decisions. All this contributes to burnout and making teacher recruitment more difficult. In your opinion, at what point does political activism, divisive rhetoric around public schools begin distracting from the core academic and staffing challenges that are actually impacting students and the outcomes in Oklahoma?
Sorry. Thank you for that question. Absolutely, it's a distraction, especially the most recent comments made by one of the gubernatorial candidates calling superintendents across our schools social radical terrorists. I believe that was the name or term, not totally positive on that. But those type of things weigh on teachers. They're trying to do a good job of teaching our students, and they're having to listen to that kind of junk is ridiculous. So we need, and that's something I've worked on since I've been up there, to be supportive of our teachers and do what we can for them. Actually, myself and some of the other legislators are labeled educrats at the Capitol. It's supposed to be a jab at us, but I wear that with pride because I'm there trying to take care of those teachers and do what I can, and I'll continue to do so if I'm reelected to this position.
Thank you. Ms. Lewis?
I think this is an important time to remind everybody that our school districts were designed in Oklahoma across all of the U.S. to be ran from the local level. And so whenever the state starts making policy that affects the entire, every school in the state, a lot of times those policies look a lot different for rural Oklahoma, and most importantly, District 27. And so one of the things that I would do is encourage parental participation within the local school district. And then also we have to make sure that, like I said before, that our teachers are supported, that we're supporting them, that they know that that somebody has their back, that if they're doing the right thing, that there's going to be somebody there, standing behind them.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Ms. Lewis, you're first this time. This legislative session, Oklahoma leaders supported efforts to reduce property taxes without clearly identifying how local communities would replace that lost revenue. If property tax revenues are slowed or eliminated, what specific local government services do you believe should receive less funding? What funding source should possibly replace the lost revenue? And what evidence leads you to believe that this funding approach will leave communities better off?
Oh man, I don't know if I can answer that all in 1 minute. We have to remember that with those property taxes, we're paying our our sheriff's department, we're paying our health department, we're paying our schools, we're paying everything that goes to the county with that money. And so we got to have somewhere to replace it. And I honestly believe there's a lot coming from, spending 10 years in the Army. I know that there's a considerable amount of fraud, waste, and abuse in the government. I've seen it personally. I think that we need to start looking at where we can save money, where we can cut back. Are we top heavy? Are we an upside down triangle in our county budgets? And then definitely if we're going to cut property taxes, let's start doing it at maybe the senior citizens, we start with them and then start rolling back more and more as we go. But we have to have a way to replace that revenue because very important services depend on that.
Okay. Representative Sterling?
Yeah, thank you. The part about what local organizations are essential or maybe some that could be cut, I don't think there's really any that comes to my mind that could bear being cut, because the people that would ultimately suffer in that case would be our constituents, our citizens. So I think that's a no-go in that situation. And I know that our schools, so forth, all count on this, but also we have a lot of people that are property owners that I'm hearing that are suffering from rapid increases depending on which part of the state you're talking about, which part of the community, et cetera. So that's one of the reasons that we're looking at possibly looking at the possibility of cutting ag areas, ag property tax, excuse me, from 3 to 1.75, I believe, and also just general property tax from 5 to 4. So looking at all possibilities, but again, there's got those that are wanting to just eliminate them with no recourse for how that would be supplemented. That's ridiculous, and like I say, we've got to have a plan.
Okay, thank you. Representative Sterling, question number 6 here. The proposed turnpike expansion through the Norman, Noble, and Newcastle areas has deeply divided many communities. Supporters argue the project necessary to address long-term growth, congestion, and infrastructure needs, while opponents are raising concerns about eminent domain, transparency, private property rights, and the impact of families who could lose homes, farmland, or generational property. The Oklahoma Turnpike Authority maintains broad eminent domain powers for projects deemed to serve a public purpose. Where do you draw the line between public necessity and government overreach in using eminent domain for infrastructure projects?
Currently, we're working on legislation at the Capitol and it's ongoing. It will be, regardless who's up there next year, we'll be working in that particular area on eminent domain. But we are trying to address the different ways that eminent domain is applied in these property acquisitions. One of those, first of all, on turnpikes in general, we've got to move cars. We know that. Does it have to be a turnpike? Why can't it be a free road? Why are we not letting more of the people that are directly affected have more input on the path of that turnpike, et cetera? I mean, my personal story, I just said I was born and raised out here 1 mile east. It's going to take that property, the New South Extension, in the proposal. So, again, I think we've got to look at each individual situation and decide whether it needs to be a turnpike or a free road, and decide if that's the most correct path to move these vehicles that do need to be moved in a large volume.
Thank you. Ms. Lewis? Same question.
I think that we need to start putting a lot of responsibility back to the citizens, in that, when they have these town halls, a lot of times they're not well attended. Citizens have to be involved. And our government, we need to be making sure that our citizens are involved in that process, that they get time to voice their concerns, that they get to be a part of that process. And I'm all for free roads. Maybe we don't need a turnpike. Maybe we just need to widen a road, or pave a few roads or something like that. And so a lot of people, they don't want to sell their property that's been in the generation, or been in the family for generations and generations and generations. And I don't necessarily think that we should be forcing anybody to do something with their property that they own that they don't want to do.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Ms. Lewis, you're first this time. In 2020, Oklahoma voters approved Medicaid expansion through State Question 802, placing it in the state constitution. This year, lawmakers proposed measures that could allow future legislative changes to the program if federal funding levels shift. If financial conditions change, how much authority should lawmakers have to alter Oklahoma's voter-approved Medicare expansion, and what specific fiscal benchmarks would justify overriding the will of the voters?
I think that people need to understand how much money we spend on Medicaid in the state of Oklahoma. It's our second largest budget item. We spend billions of dollars on that, and we're only paying a small portion of that. The federal government comes in and pays the larger portion of that, and then Oklahoma comes in and pays the second portion of that. And so the voters voted on this. It was put into the Constitution, and in order to change it, I think we need to go back to the voters, but you have to ask yourself, who's going to pay for it? When the government decides that they're going to cut back, then who's going to pay for it? Because we're going to have a lot more to be talking about other than property taxes when everybody else's taxes go up. because the money has to come from somewhere.
Okay. Representative?
That button. First of all, the proposed Medicaid expansion would be no changes, just moving it from the Constitution where it is now to administer more efficiently by the legislature. And by the way, if they don't do it the way that voters think they should, then they got the ballot box to vote them out of there. But give them that opportunity, I think, is where the genesis of that idea came from. Right now, we're on a 90-10 match, means 90% of the government, or the federal government funds it, and we only cover 10%. We've been warned for 8 years that is going to change, that trigger is going to change. So the thing that I think we really need to look at is the earning is up to 130%, 3% of the federal poverty level, but we still need to look at the expansion group, make sure there's a lot of fraud there. It's unbelievable how much fraud there. But the people such as single mothers, homeless, that won't change. They will still be covered. So again, we're just trying to bring this in before federal government slams it on us with a less than 90. Therefore, we'll have to pick up the slack.
Okay, thank you. Representative Sterling, community involvement and accessibility are important expectations for Noble residents. During a time of political division and distrust across our state and our nation, many residents want elected officials who are visible, approachable, willing to listen, and able to work constructively with people of differing viewpoints. If elected, what specific steps would you take to maintain a consistent presence in Noble and build strong relationships across the entire community, including business owners, educators, local organizations, and constituents of different political perspectives?
I'm doing that right now as we speak. Well, not literally as we speak, but I've talked with a individual coming on the way over here about an issue. Just talked to an individual out front about the turnpike, how they're going to be affected. So yes, I've been doing that. I've been doing it especially the last 4 or 5 years. I will continue to do that. I am very visible out in the community, different events. I have articles always in the paper. So again, I'm from this area, so I'm very familiar with it. I take, as I said in my beginning, I take very high level of pride in helping constituents and their issues. And I do not ask them what party affiliation they're with when they reach out to me. Half the time I don't even know, because I was elected to represent all constituents, whether we agree politically or not, and that's what I'll continue to do, and I take great pride in that.
Thank you.
In Pottawatomie County, I'm very active in the community there. When I decided to run for House District 27, it also came into Cleveland County. And so for the last 9 months or so, I've been getting to know Cleveland County, Noble, Norman, Lexington. I've been lost down some of those back roads a few times. But my goal is to get to know as many people here in Noble as I do in Pottawatomie County, that everywhere I go, the people of Noble and Cleveland County will be able to talk to me the same as they do in Pottawatomie County. And so for me, it's, if we have, usually the Democrats and the Republicans, we all have the same problem. It's just finding the solution looks a little bit different on both sides. And so if there's a problem, I look forward to fixing it, however that needs to be done.
Okay. So, Ms. Lewis, Oklahoma has one of the highest incarceration rates in the United States and ranks near bottom in many educational outcomes. Does Oklahoma treat poor educational outcomes and high incarceration rates as separate issues in your mind?
I think in Oklahoma, everybody's a statistic for whatever reason. We like to group people in statistics. And I think that certainly a lower education can certainly have an impact on incarceration rate. But I just want to point out that I was a mother at 17 years old, so statistically my child should be sitting in jail right now, and I should be a dropout and all of the things. And I think that making sure that our young people or people that may not have the support that they need, that we're supporting them, that we're trying to push them forward, that we're giving them a hand up, and I think that everybody, you have a responsibility to yourself and to your community to help those around you and to help yourself, and you have to kind of take some responsibility for that. So I don't like statistics, and I don't like putting labels on anybody, but that's how I feel about that.
Okay, thank you. Representative Sterling?
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to answer that question, because that's something that I've been involved with all my life. I'm a 40-year educator, as a teacher, principal. 2 of those years as a principal, I was the alternative education director at Tecumseh Schools. And absolutely, you see it up close and personal how important education is to those students that especially don't have a lot of opportunity and maybe are already at risk of not making it out, even graduating from high school. So the best way to keep, the research will show you, data will show you the best way to keep, most effective way to keep people out of prisons and jails and so forth is having them educated at a high level. Excuse me, not a high level, but a proficient level. Simply because when they're educated, they understand what the opportunities are, and they're more equipped to have a good job and be a productive citizen in our society.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Representative Sterling, can you comment and share your views on the recent moves to change the Oklahoma Judicial Nomination Commission process for selecting appellate court judges, giving more power to the governor? I believe that's a state question that will be coming up this fall.
I'm very heavily involved in the judiciary part of my at my current position. I'm the chair of appropriations for judiciary, and that's something that I deal with quite a bit, especially with judges. They are always asking me for a pay raise. Imagine that. But anyway, we are very adamant about making sure that we have quality individuals that are in charge of our judicial system. There is a system. We did an interim study about the judicial nominating system, and to be honest with you, we feel like that if it's utilized correctly, it does work well the way it stands now, and I really do not feel like we need to make any changes at this point in time.
Thank you. Ms. Lewis?
I think this is an opportunity to explain to people how important your vote for governor is. So if right now your governor has the ability to appoint all of the department heads, anybody that maybe loses office, maybe just in Pottawatomie County, we have an appointed district attorney, if somebody leaves an office. So that election to governor, you're electing a lot more than just a head of a state. You're electing somebody who's going to appoint every department that has the ability to make your life miserable for the next 4 years. And so whenever you go to the ballot box and you look at the elections, make sure that that's who you want selecting those people.
Okay, thank you. So the next question is just a yes or no. Ms. Lewis first. If you're the winner of the June 16th Republican primary, do you agree to return in the fall to participate in our final election forum with Ms. Taylor?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Representative Sterling?
I wouldn't miss it for the world.
Okay, very good. Very good. Okay. One final question. Current members of our legislature and state and county GOP officials have recently spoken publicly about their opposition to contraception, including Plan B, aka the morning after pill. Given that Oklahomans have expressed concern about their continued access to this form of health care, what is your position on preserving Oklahomans' access to hormonal contraception?
Well, I'm not totally, I need to probably research that to give a real accurate answer, but I do believe that, we need to allow the families to make those decisions as long as it's not affecting or in conflict with current statute, current law. So again, I am a pro-life candidate. I will continue to be that, but I also know there are extenuating circumstances that we also always have to look at.
Thank you. Ms. Lewis?
I'm not really sure either what you're speaking about, but I am as well a pro-life candidate. I think that we need to stop letting the government get involved in conversations that we have in private with our healthcare providers. That is a woman's health issue, and the government needs to stay out of that, in my opinion.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's go to our closing statements. Ms. Lewis, you'll go first. You'll have 1 minute for your closing statement.
We are 16, I think we're 16, no, yeah, 16, 15 after today, 15 days away from the primary election. And, I look forward to seeing what June 16 looks like. I have met some incredible people across all of House District 27, talked to so many and met so many, and I look forward to hearing from anybody. I will be here afterwards for as long as I need to be, and I hope that I've earned your vote and your support, and I look forward to seeing everybody at the election polls on June 16th.
Okay, thank you. Representative Sterling?
Well, I appreciate this opportunity to present to the people here and those that are online. I'm asking to be re-elected to continue what I'm doing now, what I've been doing for the past 8 years. I'm very, I don't apologize for any of my votes. Some of those I look at and I go back, maybe we might amend or tweak or make better, but I went with the information I had at that particular time when I make my votes, so, and I always stand by that. I'm currently on a path continuing what I originally ran for and what I said in my opening statement about protecting and helping and encouraging growth and efficiency in our public safety, our education system, our criminal justice, et cetera, all those things. And even the turnpike system is something that I do want to continue to listen to both sides on that, because it's a very much a very hot topic in this particular area. So I appreciate the opportunity, hope that I can count on your vote, and if you have more questions to get more intricate details on where I stand on a particular issue, let me know.
All right, thank you very much. So with that, that concludes our questions. Thank you to all our candidates for House District 27. Your willingness to serve our communities and our state is admirable, and we appreciate your leadership. Thank you to all of our citizens for attending tonight. Participation in informed voting is one of our most important civic responsibilities. Tonight's forum has been recorded, and will be available online for viewing in a few days. Please watch the Noble Public Schools Facebook page for that shareable link to be posted by Wednesday. Make plans today to go vote in your regular polling location on Tuesday, June 16th from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. You can also vote early from 8 to 6 on Thursday, June 11th, Friday, June 12th, and from 8 o'clock till 2 on Saturday, June 13th at the following House District 27 locations: the Noble Library, Sooner Mall, and the Cleveland County Fairgrounds, or the Pottawatomie County Election Board. House District 27 and House District 45 candidates, or 27 candidates, will now be available in the foyer to visit with you one-on-one and share any campaign materials. And again, thank you for everyone for coming tonight. Encourage people to watch this online for those who couldn't be here. It's very important that we be informed as citizens. It's part of our duty as good citizens. I was reading a quote today by H.G. Wells in 1920 that said, "Human history becomes more and more a race between education and catastrophe." And catastrophe comes when people don't pay attention to what's going on. So thank you very much. Thank you, candidates, for being here, and thank you for joining us. We'll take a quick break, and then we'll be back for the final forum. Thank you. Hey, thank you. Appreciate it. Good job. Uh-huh.
is. Will you come on?
Okay, I'm just going to leave this up here if that's
Okay.
okay.
Yeah, that's
and you
fine.
can read from here.
This is just the same thing you sent me,
Yep.
right? Okay.
I know. Hi, I'm Penny. Nice to meet you. Hi. Good to see you again. And you? Yes. If you want to have a seat there, and then we'll get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. My name is Sarah Sewell, and I'm the president of the Noble Public Schools Foundation and a parent of children attending Noble Public Schools. Thank you to everyone joining us tonight and those watching online. On behalf of the Noble Public Schools Foundation Board of Directors, we are honored to join our neighbors from the Noble Public Library in hosting this important event for our community. Tonight's primary election forum is our 10th election forum to host, and we continue to remain committed to ensuring every voter in our community has as much information as possible to make informed voting decisions in our local and state elections. The mission of the Noble Public Schools Foundation is to empower educators and enrich student learning by partnering with our community to provide vital education resources while maintaining the highest standards of financial stewardship and transparency. Our vision is that every student will have ample access to the tools and the opportunities they need while in pursuit of their dreams. This past school year, we gave more than $37,000 in classroom grants and $23,000 in scholarships to our graduating seniors. Before we kick off tonight's forum, I would like to share some information on another important upcoming vote. On August 25th, our community will vote on a school bond proposal that has been 5 years in the making and shaped by more than 680 responses from parents, staff, and neighbors like you. Our community is growing at a rapid pace, and our current campuses are bursting at the seams. If passed, this bond will conclude a new 5th and 6th grade school, classroom additions, a new fine arts center, and district-wide safety upgrades. 87% of the bond is dedicated to academics, and every Noble Public School campus will benefit. The best part is the bond is designed to keep your property tax rate at or below its current level with no tax increase to you. Please link plans to vote again on August 25th. And now I am honored to introduce tonight's moderator, Noble Public Schools Board of Education member and House District 45 constituent, Will Broom.
Thank you. So I'm Will Broom. I'm a House District 45. I'm a business owner and resident. And as she said, I'm the District 1 member of the school board. Here's how this is going to work tonight. Basically, here's our candidates. First, we're going to start off with Carolyn Womack Bielik. She's our Republican challenger from Norman. She's right here behind me. And then our current representative, Annie Mintz, Democrat. And the challenger, Evan Shepard, also Democrat, here from Norman. House District 45 serves the communities of East Norman and the area of Noble Public Schools around Highway 9 and 108. The Democrats are the only candidates that will be on the upcoming June 16th primary ballot. Ms. Womack Bielik will face the winner of this primary election in the November general election. Here's how the question portion of tonight's event will flow. Each of you will have 2 minutes to introduce yourselves to our audience and online viewers. Following introductions, Ms. Womack Bielik will exit the stage, and I will begin the questions section of the forum. Questions were submitted by the community members during an open submission period. I will ask a community question to the candidates, and each one will have up to 1 minute to respond accordingly. We will alternate who goes first. Each response will be timed, and you will be given a 15-second warning from the front row. Timekeeper, could you raise your hand? Following the question portion, you will each have up to 1 minute for closing remarks. This is a forum, not a debate. In order to touch on as many topics as possible for tonight, rebuttal time will not be included. We ask that you answer the questions based on your own ideas and merits, that you remain professional to one another during our time together. It is imperative that we keep this forum focused on the issues and refrain from personal attacks. Any negative comments directed to your opponent will be met with a warning. If you're unable to heed the first warning, you will be asked to leave the stage. That being said, let's get started. Sure. Yes. I believe it's not live. It will be available later on this week. Okay. Okay, and we'll start with opening statements. And our first opening statement will be from Ms. Womack Bielik. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Will, and good evening. So my name is Carolyn Womack Bielich, and I'm the Republican nominee for House District 45. First, I want to address what's probably going through your minds right now, my name. It's a mouthful, and most people can't pronounce it the first 4 times they try, and trust me, I get it. Try fitting Carolyn Womack Bielich on a campaign sign. The struggle is real. So if you can't pronounce it, just remember CWB, Carolyn, or as my husband lovingly refers to what he calls my rapper name, C-Dub. So I'd like to share a little bit about myself. I grew up in a parsonage. My dad was a pastor, and if you're not familiar with preacher's kids, we are like military families. We move around a lot. But the difference is that most of those moves for my family was right here in Oklahoma. I was born in Oklahoma City and spent all but 2 years of my childhood attending Oklahoma schools. For me, attending Oklahoma public schools was a wonderful experience because we moved frequently. School provided me a great opportunity for community, friendship, outstanding teachers and mentors, a solid education. I'm a product of Oklahoma public schools, and I'm both grateful and proud of that fact. I also have a husband, JB, who is here, and he also attended and graduated K through 12 from Edmond Public Schools. We have 3 daughters, all of whom live here in Oklahoma and graduated from here, and we're blessed with 3 grandchildren. I won't be able to participate tonight, like Will said, in the question and answer, but I will be able to come back in the fall to the same forum that you'll have later on this fall. I'm looking forward to participating in the general election, and I have a table out in the foyer and would love to meet you individually if you want to stop by and say hi. And thank you to the Noble Board of Education for hosting this forum tonight, and thanks for being here. I look forward to meeting you in the future. Thanks.
All right, next opening statement will be from Representative Menz.
Can everybody hear me? Okay, great. Oh, this is such a beautiful campus to be on. Thanks to Noble Public Schools Foundation and the Noble School Board for having us. It's a really important conversation to host, so I'm really grateful. I am Representative Annie Menz. I represent East Norman in House District 45 at the state capitol, and I have done so since 2022. I have a son at Norman North High School, and I myself graduated from public schools from Putnam City West in West OKC. So I wasn't born in Norman, but I got here as fast as I could. And it's been truly an honor to represent the good people of East Norman in their state government. Some things that you might not read in my bio about me are that while I grew up on the west side of Oklahoma City, I grew up in trailer parks and apartment complexes, oftentimes with 5 or 6 other people living in the home with us. I was raised half the time by my father and stepmother, and the other half by my mother and stepfather. Early on in childhood, I was raised by my grandparents, who were on the verge of retiring at the time, and that was something that was striking in my first election, going around knocking doors, when I spoke to people, because that was the situation that a lot of the people in East Norman were in. We had a lot of mixed status families, a lot of different households, and I felt like I could see not only my experience as an Oklahoman, but as an East Normanite through them. So thanks for having me.
Mr. Shepard.
My name is Evan Shepard. One more time. There we go. My name is Evan Shepard. I am 22. I was born and raised in Norman. My main focuses in this election are affordability, healthcare, and education. And if I am ever slow in answering these questions today, you'll have to forgive me. I did just get off a 6-hour shift working an Alpha Best summer camp up in Norman. So thank you for having me, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.
All right, we're going to go straight to the questions. Now, this first question, I'll read a statement to be followed by a question. Mr. Shepard, you will have the first opportunity, followed by Representative Menz. This year, Oklahoma lawmakers increased the cap on the private school tax credit program, committing $275 million in taxpayer dollars toward private education subsidies, even as many public school districts continue reporting teacher shortages, rapidly rising operational costs, difficulty funding student support services, and growing special education demands. Public schools are all legally required to serve all students, including students with severe disabilities, behavioral challenges, and individualized education plans, or otherwise known as IEPs. Public schools must also comply with audits, accreditation standards, testing requirements, open record laws, and other accountability measures that private schools receiving publicly funded tuition dollars are not required to meet. Do you believe it is fiscally responsible to expand taxpayer-funded private school subsidies without the same level of accountability and required equal access as public schools? Why or why not? What changes, if any, would you propose?
I personally believe that the increased funding for private school vouchers is frankly abhorrent, namely because in a state such as ours, where we are already 50th in education, and we are already struggling to pay things like we are struggling to pay for free lunches, but I was thinking of when you go to colleges in high school. Concurrent enrollment, that's right. I remember where we've been having trouble with things like concurrent enrollment, free lunches, maintaining teachers, retaining teachers, and everything else. That increasing our funding for what is essentially private schools, which not everyone can afford to go to, not everyone can go to, and places that primarily serve the rich, undermines the access of the public and actively harms public education for average Americans, specifically in Oklahoma. I would propose a change. I would just get rid of them.
That'll be time. Representative Menz.
Thank you for the question. So public dollars should remain public, period. Like if taxpayer dollars are going to subsidize somebody else's family choices, that flies in the face of why we have taxes in the first place and why they're public. It's public money and it needs to stay public. That's That's all there is to it. It does nothing to overrun school choice if we eliminate the parental choice tax credit. People are still free to send their kid to whatever school they choose. If I choose to send my child to a private school, then I'm going to pay for it myself. I'm not going to expect somebody else to pay for it. I do not. I choose to send my kid to a public school, and that is my choice. That choice still exists, whether or not somebody else is paying for it. Another fine print piece of information that some of my colleagues might not want you to know is that this also expanded access to the PCTC for undocumented families to use taxpayer dollars for these vouchers.
Question number 2. First will be for Representative Mintz, followed by Mr. Shepard. This session, the Oklahoma legislature passed a new literacy reform law requiring that third graders who do not meet required reading benchmarks on state assessments be retained to repeat the third grade. Had this policy been in place last year, Oklahoma Council of Public Affairs has reported that nearly 75% of third graders would have been forced to repeat third grade. Although most Oklahomans would agree something significant needs to be done to address our literacy crisis, many educators and parents are concerned this new law will unrealistically increase pressure on already understaffed schools by requiring additional teachers, reading specialists, intervention staff, and classroom space that is not available, particularly in districts already struggling with poverty, chronic absenteeism, food insecurity, trauma, and limited early childhood access, all of which are factors closely tied to literacy outcomes. If the state is going to require retention for struggling readers, what specific investments or policy solutions do you support to ensure schools actually have the personnel, resources, and support systems necessary to help those students actually succeed?
So a big part of the conversation around education, everywhere you hear it from, that is missing from the conversation is the fact that hungry kids can't learn. It doesn't matter what we're requiring them to learn or who's requiring them to learn it. If they're hungry, it's not going to happen. Oklahoma is the 6th hungriest state in the nation. We can afford to subsidize free lunch program and expand it here. We just haven't done it. So hungry kids can't learn. I would want to expand the free lunch program first. Also, zoning in on family literacy. So if you're, you're a student, you're getting this homework, you're kind of understanding it, you have to take it home. You want a grown-up's help, but your grown-ups can't help. What are you supposed to do? There are illiterate families from all walks of life in the state of Oklahoma. So being able to support programs that bolster family literacy is another piece of it. And teacher pay raise. We gave one this year, but it wasn't enough. Support staff need pay raises as well. Also expanding Oklahoma's
That's time.
promise. Oh.
Mr. Shepard?
Just like Annie Mintz was touching on, for a lot of it, it does come down to teacher pay raise and teacher retention. In order to maintain these standards set in place by the state legislator, we do in fact need to increase our teacher retention, which does mean an increase in pay. And I would also argue that we need investment in classrooms. And when we have things like these turnpikes, which aren't really helping or boosting our tax base, to prioritize things like earlier, like said with the private school vouchers, it makes it harder to fix the problems that we've already got. It makes the standards that we're setting unrealistic, and really there needs to be a rebalancing of the budget in order to help fix the problems we have in our schools and meet the requirements set. And that means teacher raises, that means more funding for classrooms, because when I was in elementary school, I remember teachers having equipment drives where they would say bring paper, bring pencils. And I think if we can get support there for support staff, for teachers, then we can help solve a lot of the literacy problems here in Oklahoma.
Question number 3. First for Mr. Shepard, then Representative Mintz. Even with recent investments in teacher pay and public school funding, Oklahoma still trails neighboring states in teacher compensation and per pupil funding. Our lawmakers often point to teacher raises as evidence of progress, yet Oklahoma schools continue facing major teacher retention challenges tied to not only to pay, but also to workload, classroom behavior, testing pressures, staffing shortages, and lack of support personnel. Additionally, while lawmakers routinely account for inflation in other areas of budgeting and tax policy, school funding and teacher pay often require repeated political battles just to maintain purchasing power. What do you believe lawmakers may still be getting wrong about why teachers are leaving the profession? And would you support automatically adjusting teacher pay and per pupil funding each year based on inflation so schools are not effectively falling behind over time? Why and why not?
To answer that first part of the question, what I think that state legislators are currently missing is the fact that even with these teacher pay raises, a lot of teachers still have to get second jobs in order to stay afloat. With recent raises in price of living, recent raises in cost of housing, even when a teacher is getting a raise from the state, they often need to take second jobs or have to fund for classroom materials themselves or any other number of monetary problems. And when teachers have to take a second job, when teachers have to, spend more time outside of the classroom in order to prepare for the classroom, it naturally leads to that burnout and that lack of retention. So I do think that really we just need to increase our teacher pay more, and I do think that I would very much support increasing maintaining the purchasing power of schools through an automatic adjustment.
Representative Menz?
So before I was elected, I spent about 7 years as nonpartisan staff in the legislature. 5 years I was running a Senate office for Senator Michael Brooks, and it was during the teacher walkout. And we had hundreds of educators in and out of our office those 2 weeks, hundreds from all over the state. We also had parents, support staff. I could probably count on one hand how many of them asked about their own pay. The rest of them were saying, we need better buildings, we need more pupil funding, per pupil funding, we need smaller class sizes. That one specifically, I heard a lot from parents, and as a public school parent, I can tell you that's something that I would love to see as well. Increasing the Red Bud Fund, we did that this year for schools like this one that are on the formula but don't reap the benefits from gross production tax like the other schools do. And expanding OLAP to the kids of teachers was a nice step in the right direction. I think we need to expand it to support staff, and
That'll be time. Sorry.
Are the questions part of our time too, or do they start whenever we start?
They start when you start. The time starts when you start. All right. We're on question number 4. First will be for Representative Menz, followed by Mr. Shepherd. While our public school districts continue facing measurable challenges like literacy rates, chronic absenteeism, special education staffing, shortages, student behavior issues, and teacher retention, Oklahoma's education debates have increasingly centered around classroom content, library books, curriculum oversight, and parental rights. At the same time, educators across the state increasingly report feeling politically targeted, publicly distrusted, and fearful of backlash over ordinary classroom decisions, contributing to burnout and making teacher recruitment even more difficult. In your opinion, at what point does political activism and divisive rhetoric around public schools begin distracting from the core academic and staffing challenges that are actually impacting student outcomes in Oklahoma classrooms every day?
Well, I loathe to say it, but his name was Ryan Walters, and he did irreparable damage to our education system in the state and to the honorable profession of being an educator. I think a lot of the rhetoric that flies around was not only coined by him, but repeated over and over and over till it became part of mainstream, and it became sort of normalized to blame teachers for more than what they're responsible for, or to put more on their shoulders. I think parent empowerment and communication are key here when we're talking about this, and also, I mean, parents feeling empowered to talk to their own kids. I know that sounds like, well, duh, but the more and more I hear these kinds of questions, and the more forums and town halls I attend and have these conversations with folks, there's definitely a disconnect there too. And so it's like I said before, I mean, I think I'll probably always go back to making sure everyone's basic needs are being met, and the support staff is strong as well.
Thank you. Mr. Shepard?
I think that political advocacy crosses the line when you get things like Moms for Liberty, when you advocate for book bans, when you target teachers for grading papers like they did at OU while I was enrolled. You run into problems of teacher retention. When you target the teachers directly, it goes too far. The nature of learning is to introduce to new ideas. For a teacher to receive pushback on introducing new ideas is antithetical to the learning process. I think at that point, it goes too far.
Question number 5. First will be from Mr. Shepard, followed by Representative Benz. This legislative session, Oklahoma leaders supported efforts to reduce property taxes without clearly identifying how local communities would replace that lost revenue. At the same time, many Oklahomans are struggling with rising insurance costs, housing prices, and overall cost of living, making homeownership increasingly difficult for working families. Currently, Oklahoma's property taxes remain one of the primary funding sources for our local schools, roads, fire departments, law enforcement, libraries, and ambulance services. If property tax revenues are slowed or eliminated, what specific local government services do you believe should receive less funding? What funding source should replace the lost revenue? And what evidence leads you to believe that funding approach will leave communities better off?
While I'm loath to talk about budget cuts in an era where everything's already so skinny, I'd say that for me, I'd probably cut law enforcement and maintain education, because there is a correlation between an educated populace and a populace that engages in crime. And so for me, attacking the root of things like criminal activity, education, avenues for future advancement, careers, standard of living, I think in the long term, I would probably take the cut to law enforcement, although, again, I would hope that we would not lose that funding.
Representative Minns?
Could you repeat the question again?
Sure. Do you want just the last portion, or you want the whole statement too? Okay. If property tax revenues are slowed or eliminated, what specific local government services do you believe should receive less funding? What funding source should replace the lost revenue? And what evidence leads you to believe that funding approach will leave communities better off?
Thank you. So I feel like, this was a really big conversation for a couple weeks during session, and it was really striking to me to see how it was covered in the media and how people were receiving it. Folks that were saying, let's eliminate the property tax, I don't think that they were saying, let's do it so we can cut all these services, or let's defund a bunch of stuff because I don't want to pay taxes. I think that there was a little bit more behind it than that for them. However, ad valorem tax is the oldest and most reliable revenue source for the state of Oklahoma. We can't just go in. It's rather lazy to look at something and say, well, let's just cut that, and then boom, solves all their problems. It does not. I would not cut any local programs. There are actually ways that have been introduced in the House and the Senate. There are ways to bring in more revenue streams for things like public safety that have not progressed through the process. So there are ways for us to, I'm not saying we're going to make a ton of money, but there are ways for us to fill gaps.
Mr. Shepard?
I already answered.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. Yes, you
It's
did.
all right, yeah.
All right, question number 6. First, we'll start with Representative Menz, and then it'll be followed by Mr. Shepard. The proposed turnpike expansion through Norman, Noble, and Newcastle areas has deeply divided many communities in this region. Supporters argue that the project is necessary to address long-term growth, congestion, and infrastructure needs, while opponents raise serious concerns about eminent domain, transparency, private property rights, and the impact on families who could lose homes, farmland, or generational property. At the same time, many Oklahoma leaders strongly advocate for limited government and protection of private property rights, and yet the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority maintains broad eminent domain powers for projects deemed to serve as a public purpose. Where do you draw the line between public necessity and government overreach in using eminent domain for major infrastructure projects?
Well, that's an interesting way to phrase that question. I've tried to define what is and isn't public use as it pertains to eminent domain takings, and was rebuffed by my colleagues who were pressured by the lobbyists who work for the Turnpike Authority and those entities. It is absolutely unnecessary. Those talking points, I know where they come from. It's going to alleviate traffic on 35. I know what we've all been told. Okay, why does it have to be a turnpike, though? Why can't it just be a highway, and why can't it go someplace else? It has to be a turnpike because the Turnpike Authority practices what is called cross-pledging. So they function as a network so that they take out all this debt and they have to keep building new turnpikes to pay it off. I'm sorry, servicing your debt is not a good enough reason to take somebody else's property. They do not receive funding from the state of Oklahoma, so they're not a state agency. So they get to operate in different ways than a state agency would operate. So oversight is another thing I would want to do more.
Mr. Shepard?
You can draw the line at the turnpike. This turnpike will bring no economic value to Norman. It will bring no economic value across anywhere. It will not fix the traffic on I-35, and the uses of eminent domain to take people's houses in order to build it is horrible. In a time when it's already expensive to find housing, why are we making it more expensive by getting rid of houses?
Question number 7. First, it will be from Mr. Shepard, followed by Representative Menz. In 2020, Oklahoma voters approved Medicaid expansion through State Question 802, placing it in the state constitution. This year, lawmakers proposed measures that could allow future legislative changes to the program if federal funding levels shift. Supporters of Medicaid expansion argue it improves healthcare access, reduces uncompensated care costs, and helps stabilize hospitals, while critics raise concerns about long-term fiscal sustainability and future taxpayer obligations if federal matching rates decline. If financial conditions change, how much authority should lawmakers have to alter Oklahoma's voter-approved Medicaid expansion, and what specific fiscal benchmarks would justify overriding the will of the voters?
I think that whatever is needed to make sure that Oklahoma is healthy is the amount of money we should be able to put into it. I do think we should have the ability to change it, and I know that's already squeezing a tight budget tighter. But in a world where, not every job has health care, where health care gets taken out of your pay, where health care is expensive if you're not on insurance, having these social safety nets is important to ensure that people that are in poverty aren't stuck there for the rest of their lives or for generations. And I do believe that we should have the ability to expand it.
There are no benchmarks that can be met that would justify overturning the will of the people. that's it. I know that it's expensive, especially with what's being handed down at the federal level. Next year's fiscal year for Oklahoma is going to be a crunch. Next session, our budget is going to look bad. They're already talking about cuts to services. It's going to be bad. We have in Oklahoma a democratic process. We have in America a democratic republic. So when people have spoken about this thing that they want, and us, for us to turn around and try to devise ways to pull the rug out from under them isn't just egregious, it's erasing hope and, unraveling the democracy that got us elected ourselves. I think when it comes to hefty policy like this and costs to the state, there are nips and tucks we can make other places. We need to buckle down and have those hard conversations with ourselves.
That'll be time. Mr. Shepard, do you have a question?
I was just double checking that the question was referring to the use of changing it to expand the program, correct? Not to minimize it?
Yes, it just changes in general. Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay.
The legislative proposal?
For Medicaid? To be specific, the question is basically, do we change what we put into state law with state question 802?
And I said yes for the purpose of expansion, and you said no.
If the
for stop
government
minimization.
changes funding
Okay.
levels, do we change
Yeah.
what the intention of 802
I'll
was,
try
or
to
the
expand
spirit
it.
of it?
I'll try to expand it. All right.
Question 8. First for Representative Menz, followed by Mr. Shepard. Community involvement and accessibility are important expectations for Noble residents. During a time when political division and distrust remain high across our state and nation, many of our residents want elected officials who are visible, approachable, willing to listen, and able to work constructively with people of differing viewpoints. If elected, what specific steps would you take to maintain a consistent presence in Noble and build relationships across the entire community, including business owners, educators, local organizations, and constituents of differing political perspectives?
Thank you. This is a great question because I'm always looking for ways to keep in touch with my constituents. I've been already out knocking doors this year for a couple months now. I did a little during session as well. I've done it in years that aren't election years just to check in. I do not believe I could do this job without talking directly to people and showing up where they are. The bills that I file, I think 98% of them are direct constituent request bills. The other one was veterans organization. But it's people have emailed me or told me about an idea they had. I've been stopped in the grocery line. I want to create a community advisory council for House District 45 going forward. I've tried doing op-eds, I've tried to do newsletters and all sorts of things, try to stay engaged on social media, but it doesn't feel like enough to me. I would love to have a community advisory council to meet regularly and just go over major things that their communities are impacted by individually.
That'll be time. Mr. Shepard?
On the bottom of my website, it's got my personal cell phone number. If you wanna test it, you can. I'm available at any time. Call me whenever you want. If you want to just hang out, that's fine too. If you've got questions or problems, call me.
Question number 9. First for Mr. Shepard, then by Representative Menz. Oklahoma has one of the highest incarceration rates in the United States, while consistently ranking near the bottom nationally in many educational outcomes. Recent concerns surrounding conditions, staffing shortages, violence, and transparency at the Central Oklahoma Juvenile Center in Tecumseh have intensified broader questions about how the state approaches struggling youth. At what point should Oklahoma stop treating poor educational outcomes and high incarceration rates as separate problems? And what should lawmakers be investing in for our children before the state ends up paying to incarcerate them?
You know, that's a wonderful question, and I think I touched on that a little bit already in the budget cut section about how I do believe that there's already a clear correlation there, and how it's better to invest in our children's youth than it is to invest in reactionary measures. So I think that there's already a strong correlation. I do think that we should put more emphasis on education in our children's futures.
Representative Mins?
So I'm going to touch back on family literacy programs, and a little bit I didn't get to talk to you earlier about the literacy was the early intervention. So something that I believe correlates here is intervening as early as possible in a person's life, and providing hope and resources, making sure that all of those resources are funded and available, including things like free lunches and our SNAP program and family literacy programs. So childcare is another really big workforce infrastructure thing, but also I think sometimes for some kids that's the only part of their day that they're going to get to play outside or get a hot meal or have safety to feel safe enough to take a nap. So additionally, making sure that resources are available early on is key.
Okay, now our question 10. If you are the winner of the June 16th Democratic primary, do you agree to return in the fall to participate in our final election forum with Ms. Womack Belich? Yes or no? If no, can you explain your reasoning?
Yes.
There we go.
Yeah.
Well, that makes it easy.
Why wouldn't I?
We're going to ask one last question. What separates you from your opponent, and why should Democrat voters choose you on June 16th? First for Mr. Shepard, followed by Representative Mins.
You know, in the process of this forum, I've just from the answers given, I think it's safe to say that I've taken a more optimistic approach to how I want to affect policy here in Norman and here in Noble and for the rest of Oklahoma. And I just want to say that it is my hopeful goal to get as much as I can done for you, and not try to compromise where I can't, and compromise where I can. June 16th. I hope you'll vote for me. If you don't, at least vote for the pay raise.
The minimum wage state question.
Yeah.
Well, I have been involved in the political process since before I was old enough to vote. Nobody in my family really cares about politics or government or anything like that. It was just me and my curiosity, and I got involved with a local campaign when I was 17 and have been knocking doors since high school. I'm 38 now. I like to approach things. I'm an incrementalist. I like to have hard conversations with people that I don't always disagree with on things. And I can tell you that the most uncomfortable conversations that I've had in the state capitol building have also been some of the most productive. I have an understanding of the way that the building works as I've worked there, and I am still so hopeful and so energetic and ready to go back and face the challenges head on, knowing where they're coming from and how to handle them. So I really, really, really would appreciate being sent back to defend our district and our Norman values.
All right. We'll start with closing statements. You'll each have 1 minute. Mr. Shepard, we'll start with you.
In regards to my optimism, there's always direct democracy here in Oklahoma. Anything I can try to put into a bill automatically drops the number of signatures down from 10% to 7%. So even if it's a long shot, I will give it a shot. That's all.
Representative Menz.
Thank you again for inviting me here. This has been great. Good to connect with everyone. I'm available to meet up one-on-one for coffee. I love doing that. I'm available to come to any neighborhood association meetings or anything like that. Just please reach out. I will make sure everybody here has my contact info before I leave, in case you don't have time to go surfing the web looking for me. But I again am Annie Menz, State Representative for House District 45. I am deeply honored and proud to represent all of the people of East Norman as their state representative and their voice. This is something that I've wanted to do since 7th grade, so I'm deeply proud to be able to keep doing it. So thank you.
Thank you to all our candidates for House District 45. Your willingness to serve our communities and our state is admirable, and we appreciate your leadership. Thank you to all of our citizens for attending tonight. Participation in informed voting is one of our most important civic responsibilities. Tonight's forum was recorded and will be available for online viewing in a few days. Please watch the Noble Public Schools Facebook page for that shareable link to be posted by Wednesday. Make plans now to go vote in your regular polling location on Tuesday, June 16th from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. You can also vote early from 8 to 6 on Thursday, June 11th, Friday, June 12th, and from 8 to 2 on Saturday, June 13th at the following House District 20 locations. Noble Library, Sooner Mall, and the Cleveland County Fairgrounds. House District 45 candidates will now be available in the foyer for you to visit with one-on-one and share campaign materials. And I want to thank you. A lot of those questions tonight, those are questions that really affect our schools here locally. Those are questions we ask at every school board meeting as we go through. There's a lot of question marks coming up, so appreciate you coming and taking the time for that. And good night, everyone. Thank you.